One of the most bizarre and closely followed mysteries in South Florida. The suspect, Sheila Keen-Warren, has taken a plea deal offered by prosecutors. We learned today there will be no trial, and this was all unexpected. No one saw this coming. Keen-Warren entered that guilty plea for second-degree murder, a downgrade in the charges stemming from the deadly shooting that dates back to 1990. It happened on a private residential street in Wellington, and it became known as the Killer Clown case.
40-year-old Marlene Warren was shot to death in her own home. For decades, no arrest was made. Then in 2017, Sheila Keen-Warren was charged. She'd been having an affair with Marlene's husband when the shooting happened, and at the time of her arrest was married to him. Investigators say DNA links her to the crime. Her defense team has been working for months, in fact, for years, to have the case dismissed and to disqualify the key pieces of evidence against her. We have covered the hearings and followed this ongoing saga every step of the way. The community, the victim's family, and true crime enthusiasts were all anxiously awaiting the next chapter. Jury selection was slated for May 12th, but now instead of a trial, Keen-Warren could be eligible for release in 2024. I-Team Chief Investigator Mike Magnoli joins us live at the courthouse to break it all down for us. Mike?
Good evening, everybody. The defense team tells me that Sheila Keen-Warren did not enter this plea because she did it. They say she just didn't want to take her chances at a jury trial. And frankly, neither did the prosecution, not on a first-degree murder charge, so there was some negotiating behind the scene, and that's how we landed here with a second-degree murder charge in this guilty plea.
This plea sheet, is that the complete agreement between you and the government?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The voice of Sheila Keen-Warren telling Judge Scott Suskauer she understands the deal that she's entering into, and she won't try to fight these modified charges nor the penalties.
That was my mother.
Victim Marlene Warren's son Joey talking to the court through a Zoom, telling the judge and the attorneys he's okay with this plea bargain, but he had these words for Sheila Keen-Warren.
The only thing I want to say is all through this trial, I didn't see any remorse. God be with her.
Joey was at home with his mom and his pals on May 26, 1990, when a clown appeared at the front door with flowers and balloons and a pistol. Marlene was shot in the lip, and she died a few days later at the hospital. The Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office found this white Chrysler LeBaron at a nearby Winn-Dixie. This was believed to be the killer's getaway car. Physical evidence inside the car was collected. Now, in the early phases of the investigation, detectives homed in on Sheila Keen. She was an employee of the victim's husband, and she was having an affair with him. They had motive, but they didn't have enough to bring charges. Not until 2017, when investigators say new technology and new science allowed them to connect the dots after receiving a grant to re-examine old cold cases. In the 90s and in 2017, at the time of her arrest, Sheila Keen said she was not the clown, and she maintains her innocence, even though on paper, she's admitting guilt.
Saying you did something that you didn't do, I mean, nothing's harder than that.
Had this gone to trial, you were going to introduce some other theories about other possible suspects. We've heard that from you in previous interviews. So for the record, who do you think did it?
Who do I think did it? I think there's a number of possible suspects. I think Ed Barr is probably, our leading suspect. I think Richard Keene is a possible suspect. I think Claude Poitras is a possible suspect. His name hasn't come up much, but, keep in mind that Claude Poitras was the one person who wasn't at Bargain Motors when the murder happened and who arrived at the house immediately after the shooting when the police arrived.
Okay, that was defense attorney Greg Rosenfeld. Let's turn the page here. Let's hear from the state attorney on this case. He says that this deal had to be made, and he says overall he's pleased with it. Listen.
Well, as part of the deal, we agreed to have her plead to second-degree murder. Now, look, her actions were premeditated, but whenever you have a deal, there's a little bit of give and take. Look, I wanted her to serve the rest of her life in prison, but that was unrealistic.
And back out here live at the courthouse, the defense team telling me that Sheila could be eligible for release in 10 months. The prosecution saying it might be a little longer than that, but time served going to be factored in here. And remember, she has been behind bars since 2017.
Some Lake Worth Beach residents are fired up after rumors spread of commissioners allegedly pressuring the city manager to fire the utilities director. Those residents also claim the commissioners conspired to fire the city manager if she didn't follow through with it. CBS 12's Katie Benty joins us live from the newsroom after sitting in on tonight's utilities board meeting. And Katie, is there any truth to these rumors?
Liz, it's difficult to say. Tonight's meeting was last minute transformed into a workshop after being one commissioner short. That means nothing was able to be voted on. But that didn't stop residents from making sure their voices were heard.
A hot topic among Lake Worth Beach residents.
I have heard, and other people have heard, that there was going to be an action tonight regarding personnel with 3 commissioners trying to fire Mr. Liberty.
Utilities Director Ed Liberty is in charge of all things electric within city limits, as Lake Worth Beach is one of the few places in the state that does not use Florida Power and Light. At Tuesday night's board meeting, nearly a dozen residents stood in support of what he's done.
Under our current utility director's leadership, our electric utility is stronger today than it ever has been before.
The conversation comes after rumors spread that Liberty's and city manager Carmen Davis's jobs could be at risk. Residents claiming 3 commissioners are behind it.
And doing this, they have no authority to do that. The plan was to pressure and threaten the city manager with loss of her job if she did not take the action.
Some community members voiced their opinions through write-in forms, a handful showing similar support, others saying Liberty lacks vision and asking for more renewable energy plans. One resident stood only to speak about the claims in general being unprofessional, if true.
As a citizen, it pains me to hear that our commissioners, elected officials, are caught yelling, verbally abusing, threatening, using strong-arm tactics to get the city manager to fire department heads, holding secret meetings, conspiring to fire staff. This is unacceptable. A line has been crossed.
A Riviera Beach man is behind bars for a murder that happened almost a year ago.
CBS 12's Al Peffley reports the arrest report paints a very disturbing picture of what the alleged killer did to the victim. Al joins us now live tonight outside the victim's home in Riviera Beach. Al?
The details of the case are spelled out in this arrest report. Police say the victim was killed right here inside her home on Pine Ridge Drive last June. Police spent months building their case, gathering evidence. It all came together April 20th, just a few days ago, when a grand jury indicted 22-year-old Terrell Strain for first-degree murder.
I'm glad. I really am glad they got him, because I didn't think they were going to get him.
Why?
Well, that's usually something like that happens, they don't catch them.
William Burris lives at Oceantide Mobile Home Park in Riviera Beach. He's relieved police have arrested 22-year-old Terrell Strain for the murder of Burris's neighbor, 69-year-old Deborah Dunton, last June.
She was a good person. I'm glad they got that guy. I really am.
This was definitely one of the most brutal investigations that I've myself investigated. So the outcome and the arrest of Terrell Strain was extremely rewarding for us and both the victim's family.
According to the arrest report, Strain smothered Dunton by putting a white plastic Walmart bag over her head and tightening it around her neck. Her face was badly beaten. She was naked from the waist down. She had bruising on her lips, face, and chest, and multiple stab wounds.
She always kept her door open, and I told her, you can't do that, because you're asking for trouble. Somebody will walk in the place.
Police say Strain ransacked Dunton's home, stole about $1,000 cash and her home security cameras and a .22 caliber handgun she had for protection. They say Strain did not confess to the murder, but they have DNA evidence that ties him to the crime. Strain told police he knew Dunton since he was 17 years old and she would pay him for sex.
She fed all the cats, and any cat come up in the yard, she'd keep it.
She would keep it?
Yeah.
So she had a lot of cats in her house?
Yeah, that's why they called her a cat lady.
Police say Strain was already in the Palm Beach County Jail on other unrelated charges a couple of weeks after their investigation into the murder began, which allowed them to take their time and be very thorough with the investigation.
It's our belief that it was a crime of opportunity. The victim's residence was the closest to the Broadway corridor, and it's our belief that it was just a crime of opportunity to get in and out as quick as possible.
Police say Strain has a prior criminal record with arrests in the past for battery, theft, and possession of a firearm. He's now in the Palm Beach County Jail being held without bond. We went to his home in Riviera Beach seeking comment. Nobody came to the door when we knocked.